Okay, welcome to Coffee Conversations. I am Yossi Katz. I am your host today, filling in for Rabbi Brand. For those of you who came on hoping to see Rabbi Brand, I apologize. I am not Rabbi Brand. I'm not as talented as Rabbi Brand, but I have one thing over Rabbi Brand, and that is this is Coffee Conversations. And for those of you who might not know, Rabbi Brand doesn't drink coffee. So today we're going to be authentic coffee conversations. We have a very exciting program today, and I'm very excited to welcome on Rabbi Reese. Rabbi Reese is very closely connected to our Colo, as well as, he's the Av Bezdin, and he's very closely connected to our Colo. How are you, Rabbi Reese? You're on mute. Can you unmute yourself? There. How are you, Rabbi Reese?
Baruch Hashem. Very well. Shavua Tov. How are you?
I am well. It's a pleasure to have you on today.
It's a pleasure to be here.
I like the background. I assume it's a virtual background.
This is, where I take with me wherever I go in life. So, it's virtual, but it's real at the same time.
Very good. Okay. So one of the most difficult parts of this pandemic for those who are not affected from the health side of things, Baruch Hashem are healthy, is the uncertainty. There's the doubt, what to do, what not to do. There's so much misinformation out there. There's so much, whether it's a political consideration or it's just, people want to push certain agendas. There's myths. It's just very confusing. And I have found personally for me and for family members and people I know, they have been turning now more than ever to Rabbanim for guidance, for support, for clarity and direction. And we had Rabbi Willigan a couple of weeks ago, where he talked about feeling the weight of his shoulders, knowing that the community is turning to him for guidance about when to open shuls, when to open schools, when to close. Can you give us a little window into what the considerations were, what the process was when you went about how we're going to reopen, our shuls, our schools, etc.?
Look, like everybody else, the Rabbanim turn to Ribono Shalom for guidance and for help in this type of situation. We say, that we pray that the Magepa come to an end and that it not afflict us any longer. But we have certain guidelines as Rabbanim that we have to follow in terms of giving hadracha, in terms of giving instruction, and a lot of that is to consult with the doctors, with the local health authorities, with the governmental officials. This is a precedent that we find in the tshuvos of Rabbi Akiva Eger, that he was very careful to follow the governmental guidelines when there was the cholera epidemic that he had to deal with in his time. We always have the mandate of Rapo Yirapeh, that Mikan Shinina Rishus the Rofim Rapos, that the doctors are the ones that have to be trusted when it comes to the medical expertise and medical information. So as Rabbanim, we've turned to the health experts, the epidemiologists, and the governmentally appointed officials. And we've had many, many conversations. And it's on the basis of those careful conversations that we have determined what type of hadracha to give to the community in terms of when it's safe to go back to the shuls, the measures of social distancing that should be carried out, when it's appropriate or not appropriate to have guests, how to go about having simchas and things of that sort. And we also bear in mind that chamira sakanta me'isura, that the mandate of nishmatim me'odan afshosechem, to guard over our safety and our health, is of paramount significance in halacha, in Torah tradition, and therefore it's appropriate even to go a little bit more overboard than that which is strictly required or prescribed by the health officials in order to ensure our health. This is what we're required to do by the Torah. This is what we're required to do from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So we have guided ourselves accordingly, in making sure that we do our part in keeping the community safe.
Now, has this process, involved all the Rabbanim, or has the CRC been doing it, using their policy, and the other Rabbanim, using their own doctors? Like, are you using one centralized doctor?
A lot of the country has been turning to Dr. Ephraim Glatt, for example, who's known as an expert with respect to infectious diseases. this type of thing, and we certainly have been consulting with them as well. We've also been consulting, I think every community has been consulting with their local doctors and health experts as well, and we've been doing much of the same when it comes to making these determinations. And at the CRC, we are considered to be the rabbinic body for not only the Chicagoland area rabbis, but also for many rabbis across the Midwest. So a number of them have turned to us, and we have also encouraged them to consult with their own local health officials in terms of making the determinations of when it's appropriate for them to go back to their shuls, inside davening, outside davening, as the case may be. And we've given sort of general halakhic parameters, but the halakhic parameters also depend very much upon what's going on a local level and what the advice of the health physicians may be.
Speaking of your broader role in the CRC, I remember at the beginning of the year we came to meet with you and you were explaining to us what the CRC does. And it does so much more than just the kashrus and now I guess creating protocols for shuls, but you do gerus and gittin. What have these other functions? Gerus, for instance, I know gerus is a very long process, a drawn out process perhaps, to vet the proper candidates. And you mentioned how you fly throughout the Midwest to find, to meet the candidates. What happened to that? Has that all been put on hold? Where are we? What are the policy now in order to allow the other procedures of Bezdin to continue?
Many aspects of gerus have been put on hold. For example, in Chicago, we really weren't comfortable from a social distancing perspective to go to the mikvah, utilize the mikvahs for this purpose of bringing candidates who are in the final stages of ger to complete their conversion in the mikvah with rabbanim all standing right next to each other, the gerus candidate, using the mikvah and so forth. So that we haven't done yet in Chicago, although we're now at the point in which we have, I think, the necessary protocols set up that we can start doing that again. For the first several months of the pandemic, we were still interviewing gerus candidates through Zoom meetings. And there was a special challenge for a number of the candidates just to remain involved and integrated into the community when there's no real sense of physical community anymore, when people weren't meeting each other in shul, when you didn't have the same classes taking place and things of that variety, where the gerus candidates didn't have the same network that they were able to take advantage of during normal times. So therefore it required a little bit more TLC, shall we say, in terms of the sponsoring rabbis being in touch with the candidates by telephone, via Zoom, making sure that their needs were being taken care of, making sure that they could participate in Zoom classes, in Tehillim recitations or other types of davening get-togethers via Zoom. Now there's more that can be done in person as the restrictions become more loosened, but it certainly has been a challenging time, particularly in terms of taking new candidates. So you don't want to begin a process with somebody until you're able to have a face-to-face type of knowledge and relationship with the individual. So one thing that we did establish was that when the sponsoring rabbi decides to work with a new candidate, there should be at least one in-person meeting. And that, I think, has put off maybe at least the initial stages of the gerus process for new candidates. But I have to say that, Baruch Hashem, we've been able to move things along with existing candidates, and even in a couple of the places where they had opened up mikvos and there was more leeway for rabbis to get together, go to the mikvah and perform a conversion. Some of our other satellite batei din throughout the country have been able to do a few conversions with candidates of ours who were, in those different locations. So we've been able to do a little bit in terms of conversion. When it comes to gittin, obviously you can't do a get remotely, but we started doing over the past month gittin in parking lots of shuls and social halls of shuls where there's a lot of space. You can have a lot of social distancing, everybody wearing masks. Obviously, at the very beginning of the get, you have to have the husband and wife lower the mask so you could just make sure that it's the right people who are doing the get. But we've been able to start doing that again as well. It takes time until you get a comfort level that you feel that the as proper safety precautions can be put into place so that you can conduct, Beis Din proceedings in a proper and responsible fashion. But Baruch Hashem, over the course of time, we've learned, I think, together with everybody else, how to try our best anyway to navigate this new normal.
Yes, it's definitely been a challenge, and we've all been pivoting online to some extent, although clearly Beis Din has functions that can't be done online. I want to pick up on, you mentioned the Gittin, but it's very challenging with the time we're living in now. There's a lot of stress involved. There's, stay-at-home order with the people you love most, but you're also, it's not always easy. And you have the anxiety, maybe financially, you lost your job, you're not as secure as you once were, just the health, the fact that there's anxiety about health. I assume that can lead to stress on marriage. And is there a thought perhaps that there's going to be an impulsive decision for divorce to get a get when it's more of the situations surrounding it that warrant the, that create the stress, and it's not necessarily the marriage itself. So do you have some protocol in place to vet that? And maybe in a broader sense, in general, when a couple comes to Beis Din, are you involved in marriage counseling? Do you send them to a therapist? What's your protocol?
We always try to make sure that the couples have done everything that they can to work out issues in their marriage. If it is possible to save a marriage, I always tell people, I've been involved in thousands of gittim, I'm not really in favor of divorce. If you could save a marriage, so it's always preferable to save a marriage. This is certainly a time that has tested the mettle of many marriages, of families being forced to cooped up together for long periods of time without a break. Sometimes it's difficult for when the husband is working, and there are also children running around, and it's necessary to help in terms of taking care of the children. And there can be a lot of tensions in this type of situation. But look, Shalom Bias takes precedence over everything else. I've had couples call me up and discuss some of the tensions that they are dealing with. And I always emphasize the fact that you have to get along with your spouse more before you do anything else. That's more of a priority, and that takes precedence over any other aspect of life, parnasa or otherwise, the husband getting along with the wife getting along with the husband. And it's important that to the degree the couples might be finding this situation stressful, that they recognize that they're not alone, and you should try your best to work things out. If it's not a situation of terrible abuse and the marriage has been good up until now and you've been able to make it work, so my advice is try to keep on making it work. I remember I grew up in Muncie, and my Rav is from my childhood is Rav Moshe David Tendler Shlita, and he used to always say that a wife marries a husband for better or for worse, but not for lunch. So so you have to have the husband home for lunch every single day. So sometimes it could be a little bit too much. But at the same time, hopefully this is also an opportunity for couples to get to know each other better, and to learn how to have more patience for each other, and to get closer with each other. So I certainly encourage everybody to try their best to stick it out. But if you can't, so we will recognize there's always the escape hatch that the Torah provides, that when a marriage can't work out, there's such a thing as a get, but of course it's a last resort.
I want to end maybe on a more positive note. Not that there's a silver lining to this pandemic, because there's been so much tragedy, but have you seen anything inspiring or that's moved you over the last couple of months that's can inspire us?
One of the things that has inspired me, I've received a number of shilos over the last number of months regarding the monetary issues, the Makas Medina issues. Do we continue to pay tuition even if the school isn't providing services? You continue to pay for the places that have kind of the daycare centers and the babysitting services, where obviously that's something that in many cases couldn't even be continued via Zoom. And I've encouraged the parties as much as possible. I've given shiurim about the halachic parameters of when you have to pay, how much you have to pay, when you don't have to pay, all the different shitos, the different opinions. And I've always emphasized that the Torah very much encourages a spirit of compromise when it comes to a Makas Medina, when it comes to a pandemic where everybody is affected, that it's good, that it's appropriate for everybody to take a little bit of a hit so that nobody has to suffer alone. And the main thing is to really focus on our health and not worry so much about the money. And I have found that most of the people who are calling with Shilos, it's Shilos really about that they want to do the right thing, that nobody's really looking to take too much. Nobody's looking to charge too much. Nobody's looking to get out of having to pay if this is the right thing to do. Everybody's just calling, what's the right thing to do? I want to make sure that somebody paid me money. I'm not really providing the services. Should I return a certain amount of the money? Maybe I'm not high up to do so, but maybe it's the right thing. These people are suffering financially. I just have been very, very impressed by the spirit of tzedakah and chesed that I've seen in everybody. The other thing that's impressed me is that when individuals have been sick, just how people have come together to daven, to organize Tehillim, Zoom Tehillim meetings, telephone conference Tehillim meetings, sessions so that we can daven for each other and care about each other, and how much is being done just in terms of tefillah, in terms of really just caring about everyone, both in our community and outside of our community, everyone, who is sick, who has been sick, who has needed a refuah shlema. And there's just a tremendous amount of care and love, I think, that we have witnessed within our community. And, Yes Hashem, we should just continue to have that tremendous Ahavas Yisrael. We should continue to have that tremendous amount of love and concern for each other going forward in good health.
Thank you so much, Rabbi Reese, for coming on. I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Stay healthy. Stay safe.
You as well. Thank you very much. Sei gesund and Shavua Tov.
Okay, now joining us is Shmuel Schreiber. How are you, Shmuel?
I'm doing well. Thanks for holding back on the rabbi thing.
I'll give you smicha. Yeah. Rabbi Shmuel Schreiber. That means anything. Shmuel sits on our Colo's Presidium. Him and Michael Glass are the co-presidents. I actually met, he was the first person I think I met in Chicago. You came over and brought pizza and French fries.
I remember.
I look at you as someone who personifies what it means to be a balabas. You are incredibly busy traveling across the globe for work, yet you find time, and not just a little bit of time, but a tremendous amount of time for our Colo, for our community, and that's something that we all look up to. And I thought it'd be interesting to bring you on to hear, your perspective as a lay leader, what it's been like during these trying times, and how has your tenure been during the Colo? What have you seen? So just to begin, how did you get involved in the Colo? And how long have you been involved in the Colo for?
I've been involved longer than I can remember. So we, when I say, I've been involved with the Colo, I mean, my family, we've been involved in the Colo since it was Torah Mitzion, just Torah Mitzion, and sort of went through the transition a long time ago now, 11, 12 years ago now, when Rabbi Brand came onto the Colo as the Rosh Colo, and when we transitioned to a YU Torah Mitzion Colo model. So it's been a very, very long time, and I'd say, initially we got involved. The Torah Mitzion component was very compelling to us, sort of getting Torah Mitzion, having that connection to land of Israel, to people from Israel that were coming. But then beyond that, as Rabbi Brand began to shape the Colo, make it into the community organization that it is today, one of the things that kept us involved along the way, there's many things, but one of the key things is the ability for the Colo to connect to every member of our family. That was something very special, and whether it's
we worked very hard on.
Yeah, it's I mean, the programming is unbelievable, but I was going to say, I think of the Colo in sort of a traditional Colo sense of learning, sort of one-on-one learning and sheer learning, but then also all of programming, and it's a combination of programming that the Colo puts out and programming that enables kids and families to engage, which and to lead, which really is something special that we've experienced over the years.
On that point, we spend an inordinate amount of time just in meetings trying to think about how we can engage every single level, every community member, so that we're not just hitting the teenagers or just hitting adults or empty nesters, but everyone. Last week we made a list of over 30 different types of programs, not programs, but types of programs, meaning youth programs. And under that, was Bima, Vishinamtem, Parshan, Pizza, anything to do with youth. And that was listed as one. So over 30 different types of programs, and which means there's so many more that we produce. And this list is not comprehensive. And some of these things happen weekly, some monthly, some daily. I can imagine you said you've been around for many years now. We didn't start out this way. This has been a slow process of this growth. What challenges I guess also as your new position as the president, what challenges does the Colo face as it grows?
Yeah, if you go back to the point you're making, I remember back a number of years ago, maybe in the first few years, Rabbi Brand was the Rosh Kollel, so he brought some lay leaders together in a practice that he's repeated a number of times over the year. But he brought some lay leaders together to talk about what are the choices that we have to make in terms of programming? How do we reach everybody? And one of the common themes that came up at the time, and we've talked about over the years, is that the Kollel, you could look at the Kollel and say we're challenged because we don't have a physical presence. So while the Sidarim take place in ICJA, and we thank them for their partnership and continued support of us, but at the same time, we don't have in a traditional sense the building of this is the Kollel and this is where everybody comes. Rather, our model is we go out into the community. And what was interesting then, and what continues to be interesting now, is that that's actually turned not so much from a challenge, but really an asset, right? It pushes us to be thoughtful about how do we get out into the community, how do we have relevant programming to everyone, and particularly you mentioned the COVID environment. I mean, think about what the Kollel is doing today. So rather than simply continue to provide the same programming and just put it up on Zoom, the Kollel has been very thoughtful, again, led by Rabbi Brand or Rabbi Kraft, and with the support of members of the Kollel such as you. I mean, the programming is transformed in a way that is really meaningful in this environment. You just look at this platform, right? And look at how the coffee conversations came up, and that's probably not something we would have done 6 months ago. Sunday morning, right? We had the open base medrash, which I've participated in for a number of years. Rabbi Brand's Shir Sunday morning, which is one of our most well-attended events, and just like that, we transitioned to something that was innovative and thoughtful and relevant to the community in this time. And those are the kinds of challenges and kinds of ways that the Colo has really addressed them over the years.
Speaking of innovative programs, so this Shabbos, now indulge me for 1 minute, Shmuel, while I make the plug here. This Shabbos, we're having the inaugural community Shabbos, Shabbaton, the Shabbaton in your home. So this is an amazing idea that we thought of. We were sitting around our individual houses on the phone or on Zoom, trying to think of how we can engage the community. So July 10th and 11th, we're having Shabbaton in your home. What is this? We are buying foods from all the local restaurants to support the local restaurants, because as much as we joke, food is very important to us as Jews and as people. It's important to provide people parnasa, and many people parnasa, but also to have restaurants in the community is important, for the convenience, for the luxury, but also because it also puts you on the map. Every good community has a mikvah, an Erev Shul, and a Chinese restaurant. So we are buying food from all these restaurants, putting in a box with Divrei Torah from all the Colo fellows, and then we are you order a box, we send it to your house along with a personal visit from Rabbi Brand or one of the Colo fellows. And there's going to be a pre-Shabbos Ruach with Rabbi Brand, a Havdalah, musical Havdalah a cappella because of the 3 weeks with an out-of-town musical guest. And the best part about, I think, all of this, part of the proceeds are going to the Ark and the Chesed Fund. So when you sign up, you have an option to give a donation to the Chesed Fund and the Ark, but part of every box as well, a percentage is going to the Ark and Chesed Fund. You can sign up by going to www.torahchicago.org, our website. On the front page, you can click on purchase a box. It's a win-win for everyone. This is an example, I think, of an innovative Colo program, one that we sat around, we said, how can we deliver something to the community? Everyone's still stuck at home. Even if you're going to shul, it's still not the same experience. I mean, I saw you yesterday in shul. We didn't talk because there's like a kind of an awkward wave, and then we kind of like, okay, move back. So we said, how can we engage people? How can we keep this sense of community going? We thought of the Shabbaton. Over the years, what have been some interesting and memorable Colo experiences or programs that you have really enjoyed?
Yeah, well, it's a tough question because there's a lot. There's a lot of programming that really has spoken to me. I'd say, most recently, one of the things that I've been participating in is what Rabbi Brand likes to call the Chevra events of a group of guys getting together to talk Torah, to sing, to sort of elevate spiritually, and a really great example of how the innovation that we've been talking about here at the Colo sometimes comes from within the Colo. Sometimes, as you said, right, there's brainstorming that happens amongst the members of the Colo, and sometimes it comes from members of the community who bring ideas to Rabbi Brand, to others in the Colo, say, how about we try this or that? And that, I think we have a lot of programs that have come up that way. One that's very close to my heart is the GNOL program that's been very successful for a long time. It's close to my heart because this was an example where my daughter and a couple of her friends many, many years ago really were looking for a way to come together for learning outside of school. These were high school girls who were looking for more Torah learning. I'm not sure that would have been something at the top of the list for the Colo to say, oh, that seems to be a need in the community, but yeah.
We like Neely these days.
Yeah, and it's exactly so, and it was great, and look at where it's come. So that one I go back a long way to think about, but really a wonderful example of Colo programming that's relevant to the community.
Yeah, I mean, we really sit around. Like I take the Rabbi Brand just got on the phone and goes, okay, what can we give? What's not being provided? How can we provide, and how can we hit as many people as possible? Everyone give me an idea, and then we sifted through the ideas and came up with, Torah in the box, the Shabbaton, etc.
Yeah, I would just pick up on something else that you highlighted there, because I think the partnerships, when you talked about the Shabbaton and the partnerships, with the Ark and others and the shuls, the partnerships is one of the things that makes this Colo very unique, because there really aren't very many communal organizations that the Colo isn't partnering with, whether it's schools, whether it's shuls, whether it's organizations through MCJL like the JCCs or the Holocaust Museum. The Colo really has a reach that's unparalleled to be able to leverage resources that we already have in the community together with Colo resources to put on very special programming.
Yes, I mean, I didn't realize the full gamut of who we're targeting and who we're engaging with. It's really amazing. Shmuel, thank you so much for everything you do for the Colo, for the community, and for giving us 15 minutes of your time today. Have a wonderful day.
And thank you very much, Rabbi Katz. Good talking with you.
Bye. Hello, Rabbi Nachman Bogan. You're on mute.
Now I'm on mute. Good morning, Rabbi Katz. How are you?
It is good to see your face. I've only heard you all, from the phone.
Okay, and I only heard from you from the phone. So good. Shalom Aleichem. How are you?
I'm Aleichem Shalom. I don't have a bio for you. I tried to search one online. I couldn't find one. But what I do know from you is that you did something incredible. You left retirement when you were doing the best thing in the world, sitting and learning, and you became the operations manager of the Chicago Chesed Fund.
Well, really, I mean, honestly, I'm the assistant operations manager. The director of operations is Rabbi Yossi First, who's the son of Rabbi Shmuel First.
So I'll rephrase that. You did something amazing. You left retirement, doing the best thing ever, learning, and you became the assistant director of operations at the Chicago Chesed Fund. The Chesed Fund is legendary in our community and outside of the community, not just for the sheer amount of services that you provide and the range of what you provide, but also for your professionalism. It's well known throughout the greater community that going to the Chesed Fund, you're going to have not just the Chesed, but there's going to be a certain professionalism to it as well. I have an uncle who is involved in founding the Tomchei Shabbos in the town that he lives, and he actually reached out to the Chesed Fund, reached out to Rabbi First to just get insight and find guidance on how we can run an organization the way you run it. So, it's a reputation that you can be proud of, and as a community, we can really be proud of. You're in a massive warehouse in Lincolnwood now, and I assume you didn't start that way. You probably started in someone's basement or backyard, garage. What's the beginning? What's your story? How did you begin?
Let me tell you. What happened is when I first became the Dayan of Agudas Yisrael here in Chicago, which was in the late 1970s. So he was paskening shilas for people in the community. And in paskening shilas, people came to him with their personal issues. And a lot of the personal issues was financial. So in order to be able to help them, he used to go around to his friends and collect funds to be able to help the people with their issues. There were other people also involved in Chesed. And those people one was a Dr. Norton Sokol, Zechron Levrocha, and another one was a Mrs. Tema Weiner, Oleh Shalom. These two people were also doing their own thing. They had people that used to come to them for help. Dr. Sokol basically gave people medical help, also some financial, and Mrs. Weiner helped give them food. And they went and collected from their friends to be able to fund this thing. In 1987, these three groups, Rabbi First, Dr. Sokol, and Mrs. Weiner, decided to merge and open up one central Chesed organization where everyone could come to if they needed help. And also by becoming a 501(c), we were able to go out to the community and collect funds from everyone. And it wasn't the responsibility of a few friends from each group. And so in 1987, the Chesed Fund was created. And the base for the Chesed Fund was in Rabbi First's home, his office in his house. People used to come there and pick up their checks or whatever was needed. And during that kufa, I think every 6 or every 8 weeks, there was food distributions. And these food distributions was prepared in the Beis Yaakov school gym. What happened was on a Friday afternoon, food was delivered, which was bought retail, brought to the school. Motzei Shabbos, I believe, the volunteers came and packaged the packages. And on Sunday morning, they went and delivered everything and to put the school back into order as if nothing went on over there. This was going on from 1987 to the year 2004. In 2004, I mean, the operation was very big by then. I mean, I'm not sure if it was close to $1 million or not, but during that kufa, it was decided that most of the money was being spent on food. So in order to be able, so the thought was that maybe we should buy a warehouse, open up a food pantry, be able to buy the food at cost. This way we were buying the food retail. This way, buy the food at cost, also enable us to get donations from vendors, and we'll get more for our buck. So in 2004, our warehouse at 7045 North Ridgeway was purchased, and Rabbi Yossi First moved to Chicago to take over as the director of operations with his father. And basically what I'm about to describe is what evolved over the last 18 years. So the pantry, that's the first thing that opened. Then we opened up a clothes department. This clothes department, we got donations from people. People drop off their donations. We have people sorting the clothes, and whatever was good was put on the rack. And people, men, women, and children were able to come and help them and avail themselves of clothes. This same department, distributed toys, linens, baby furniture, bicycles, school supplies, form and books. Then we opened up a furniture department. So people were able to come either to furnish their homes, furnish their apartments, and in case maybe a piece of furniture broke, they were able to replace their furniture from our furniture department. The biggest chesed that a person could do is to help a person get back on his feet. I mean, we were doing chesed by helping people financially, but I think the biggest chesed is when you
The Rambam lists that in he lists the levels of chesed. That's the pinnacle of the biggest chesed of the chasadim.
Right. So we have JobLink, which is a service where we help people find jobs. We help them put their resumes together. We coach them how to go to a job interview, and we have a network of employers that need help, that need workers, and we make the shidduch. Last year, I believe we found over 100 people jobs. Another department that we have, it's similar to JobLink. JobLink is like a shotgun for jobs. We have a real shotgun service. It's called SimchaLink, where we have a network of our own shotgunim here in Chicago, connected with a network of shotgunim all over the United States, and we try to find dates for our girls and boys here in Chicago. And in addition to that, once they do get a date, if it happens to be that they needed clothes befitting of going on a date or transportation to get to a date, we help them in that area too.
How do you just think of all these little pratim and details that usually get overlooked?
Well, the thing is, I mean, over 18 years, I mean, there was a lot of thinking done, but Baruch Hashem, what's the saying? Shomer psoim Hashem. Hashem takes care of fools. I think we did a good job. Anyway, in addition to, we also have what we call the Jane Webster Bridal Gemach. So if you're making a simcha, you need bridal gowns, you need dresses for the girls, for the family. So you can come and rent a gown, which is a minimal charge. I think it's $50 for an adult gown and $36 for a child's gown. I think in New York they charge $250, $300 for gowns like this. So it's basically done to make sure the community could afford to avail themselves of this service. Another service we have is the Rashi Schnell bridal shower gemach. Now, when I use the word gemach, see, the bridal gowns is a real gemach. We expect to get back the gowns because it's a rental, but we don't expect to get back the shower, what do you call it, stuff. Usually a girl has a shower. She's registered in some fancy store or whatever it is, and her friends buy stuff that she needs to start her home. If you partake in this bridal shower, we supply the whole package in one shot, which it consists of china, dishes, pots and pans, microwaves, you name whatever a Colo would need to start a home. As far as a real gemach goes, we also have a loan fund. It's a $3.5 million loan fund. That, Baruch Hashem, we haven't lost a penny. Again, you have to have siyata d'shmaya. We haven't lost a penny. I believe a person could borrow up to $20,000 and pay back in a way that they could afford to pay back. And we haven't lost a penny because you have to have certain guarantors, but it always works out. What else could I tell you?
I mean, that's just unbelievable, and it's inspiring. So I'm a typical guy living in Chicago. I know about the Chesed Fund. I gave a little donation to it at the beginning of the year.
Yossi, I forgot a few things that are also very important. Something that I think needs your community needs to know about, and that is we're also into social services. And what we do for that is we advocate for people that need to get public aid and SNAP to be able to be approved. The problem is when you're dealing with the government, you have to dot your I's and cross your T's. And if you don't do it, right away you're rejected. So we help people make sure that they get accepted. Another thing we have, we're an official authorized government LIHEAP office. In other words, the government subsidizes needy people with electric and heat, and we're an official office for them to do that. We also have a licensed mobile WIC service that comes into our facility twice a week to help people apply for WIC. And the advantage of that is that that our people come to apply in a setting where it's dignified and sneistic. Another thing we do, which is very important, is we help people with budgeting. Some people do make a living, but on the other hand, they don't exactly know how to budget, and then they end up coming to us for help. So we help them with the budgeting. And another thing we do is we help people with credit and debt negotiations. People, if you owe too much money on credit cards, we'll be able to get it down to 10 to 20% on the dollar. And if you can't pay, we help.
That's unbelievable. So I'm speaking on behalf of the listeners. We might give a donation once a year or more than once a year to the Chesed Fund, a big donation, a small donation. And for those of you who just heard about this and want to donate, www.chicagochesedfund.org/donate. Ein Kamach, Ein Torah. So you can also donate to the Colo as well, but we're both important institutions. What opportunities exist so that, for me to get involved beyond just giving a monetary donation?
Well, I mean, we have volunteers. We have Shoshana Moskowitz is our volunteer coordinator. If you want to get on the list and find out what we have available at the time, you can call at 847-679-7799, extension 113. Her name is Shoshana Moskowitz.
That's also found on the website.
Pardon?
That's also found on the website.
Yeah, but what we have available, we need people to help stock shelves. We need people to help sort clothes for our clothes department. We need people to help tag those clothes. And there are times that we need substitute drivers. We need something picked up, a special situation where people we need a pickup, and we need somebody to come help us have to drive the truck to pick it up. That's basically the volunteer opportunities.
That's really, really tremendous. If people want to learn more, they can go to the website, which I must say, just visiting you virtually just shows your professionalism. It was an engaging website, an informative website, and just really just professional and well done. So thank you so much for coming on. It's inspiring, just the sheer amount of what the Chesed Fund is doing, and I had no idea about half those things. So I hope they can help someone out there, or people want to donate more or donate their time. Thank you so much for coming on, Rabbi Bogan, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day.
Thank you for having me. Bi matzliach.
Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today for today's coffee conversation. I want to leave off with a quick video message from Rabbi Brand about our upcoming Shabbaton, which we just heard so much about.
And welcome to this video invitation. I hope you and your family are well. I am so excited to welcome you to our Colo's first ever Shabbaton in your home. It's an opportunity for us to come together, experience community, build community, and celebrate community. Experiencing community by coming together with friends and neighbors and enjoying a pre-Shabbos delivery from me and Colo rabbis directly to your door. It'll be a Shabbos box filled with words of Torah, things to say and learn over Shabbos, and delicious food, supporting local eateries from across our community. We are enhancing our Shabbos experience, not just with the delicious food, but also the opportunity to support some of the most important institutions. When we celebrate Shabbos, we build community by enabling others to celebrate Shabbos by donating the proceeds to the Ark and the Chicago Chesed Fund. In addition to our celebration of Shabbos in our homes, we come together also on Erev Shabbos on Zoom with a pre-Shabbos Ruach that I'll be sharing with each of you, and in musical fashion, and Motzei Shabbos welcoming special guest Rabbi Simcha Willig for a musical Havdalah. I invite all of you to order a Shabbos box or gift one to someone who you know in the community who could benefit and enjoy the opportunity to connect during this very unusual time. Our Shabbos is scheduled, please God, for next week, July 11th, and this weekend is the deadline. So please make sure to sign up either by clicking the email or going to our Colo website at www.torahchicago.org. Look forward to celebrating this Shabbos with you.
Thank you everyone so much for joining today. Today is the deadline to sign up and order yourself a box. Please go to our website, order. I hope everyone has a wonderful, wonderful day. Stay healthy, stay sane.